In this video, I'm going to show you a really simple system for writing your first great melody. Welcome in. My name's Matt, and on this channel, I help people to write their first song. The starting point for a great melody is a chord progression. There are a few chord progressions that get used a lot in popular music, which is part of the reason why many songs sound the same. I'm going to keep this really simple and show you how to write a melody by using one of the most popular chord progressions. Then I'll reveal how to make your melodies truly unique and interesting. This will elevate even the most boring progressions into a great song part. You'll be able to do this whatever your musical or songwriting ability might be. Here's the progression we'll be working with: C major, G major, A minor, F major and C major. Each chord is constructed with a set of notes. When played together, you hear the sound and feel of that chord. Here are the notes contained in our example progression. C major uses C, E and G. G major is constructed with G, B and D. A minor has the notes A, C and E, and F major uses F, A and C. These notes can be used to craft simple melodies. All you have to do is use the notes in the chord whilst that chord plays. Then as the chords change, you change to the next set of melody notes. You can see an example of this on screen. This will create a pleasing, harmonious melody. This basic technique is used in many songs and is a great way to start crafting your melodies. Look at how each bar starts with the root note of the underlying chord. These are the notes that the chords are named after. You can quickly see this because the chord and note have the same colour. Here's how that sounds. Starting each bar with the root note of the chord is the most predictable and safe way to craft your melody. So let's now begin the process of creating some interest and surprise. In the next example, I use the same melodic rhythm as before, but start on chord notes other than the root. Listen to how this has a different feel to starting on the root note. I've also chosen notes that descend at the start of each bar, providing a pull down towards the end of the melody before it rises back up. Even though we only have a very limited palette of notes at the moment, there is still so much you can do to change up your melodies. You will have noticed that I have used different note lengths, which provide different feels to the melody. You are free to make notes as long or short as you like. The other important factor is where in each bar notes are played. In previous examples, the notes have always started on beat 1 of each bar. This coincided with the chord changes, giving them a predictability of moving in lockstep. In the next example, I'll make one change and shift the start of the melodies in bars 1 and 3 forward slightly. Nothing else will change. Listen to how this transforms the feel of the melody with minimal effort. You can always use this idea to get more value out of your melodies that you have created. Working with chord notes is a great starting point for melodies, but now it's time to take things up to the next level. The next step is to try out non-chord tones. These are just the notes that aren't in the underlying chord. There are 12 notes in Western music, so plenty to choose from. But to make this a bit easier, I'll use the 7 notes from the C major scale. That is just the white keys on the piano. The reason for this is because our progression is in the key of C major. These extra notes can be used to link your chord notes. These are known as passing notes. I'll use them in the next example with the F and A notes in bar 1. Listen to how they bring something a bit different and interesting to the melody, creating a smoother overall feel. In bar 2, I place the non-chord notes more prominently. I start and end the bar with the C note, which isn't in the G major chord. Accented passing notes like this, which fall on one of the 4 beats of the bar, stand out more and give phrases motion and tension. This is resolved when a chord note is heard. Bars 3 and 4 are unchanged with only chord notes, so you can hear the difference. Here's how that sounds. If you want to learn more ways to write your first song, then like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now we've got a full palette of notes to play with, we can try out lots of simple techniques to spice up our melodies. The first idea is called a suspension. So far I have stopped melody phrases as the chords change, but you can play a note and then hold it whilst the chords change. If you play a chord note and hold it over a change, then its role changes once the new chord is heard. If it becomes a non-chord note, then it is suspended until we play a chord note and resolve it. I'll do this between bars 1 and 2 by holding the note E over the chord change. You can also do the opposite, where you play a non-chord note that is part of the next chord and hold it over the change. This is called anticipation. I use this idea between bars 2 and 3, holding the C note, which is part of the A minor chord. You will also come across common notes that are shared between chords and hold them over changes for a different feel. I demonstrate this between bars 3 and 4 with the A note. Have a listen to the different vibe each of these ideas brings to the melody. You can also keep on coming back to one particular note. This is known as a pedal tone. This gives a sense of continuity to the melody, as an anchor that the listener can grab hold of whilst everything else changes. In this next example, I adapt our melody to keep on coming back to the C note as a pedal. Did you notice something about the previous progression? The first 4 notes of the first 2 bars were identical. This introduces a really popular melodic idea: sequences. Sequences take the same melodic shape and move it up or down over different chords. You can also simply repeat it, like in the last example, but it's more common to move it up or down with each chord change. How far you move it is up to you. You just need to preserve the shape of the melodic line. In the next example, I take the original shape and move it up over the second chord. I then move it up again over the third chord to create a rising melody. Notice how the melody feels the same due to the shape being recycled, but also different because the actual notes being played have changed. This balance between repetition and variation is crucial to crafting great melodies. Thinking about melodies in terms of shape or contour is a simple yet powerful way of writing better melodies. The last melody had a series of rises and falls, but overall it climbed up. You can think of this like a mountain range, with different heights of peaks and then valleys between them. You could also have a melody that trended down. The direction of chord progression can be a useful guide here. For example, the chords I've used in the examples have overall trended down. The lowest note in the first C major chord is higher than the F note in the F major chord. So in the next example, I'm going to use these notes like a target, which will pull the melody down towards the final F note. Thinking of the melody like a landscape also allows you to consider the idea of leaps and steps. Steps are where notes are next to each other. This is like a gentle slope. There's no problem with walking along this as it takes minimal effort, but it isn't very exciting. The opposite of this is a big leap. This is like a sheer mountain face. It's exciting and challenging to climb, but takes a lot of effort. An ideal hike has some parts which are gentle steps, allowing you to take it easy and recover before or after scaling a more difficult leap. This balancing act is important with melodies. Too many steps where notes hardly move is boring, but too many leaps makes it chaotic and hard to follow. Big leaps are also a sign of bigger emotion and will stick out more, so consider saving them for a key moment in your song. In the next example, I reused the last melody again. It had plenty of steps and a bit of a leap down after the start of bar 2. I talked about wanting to target the last F note, but it was so close to the A note before it. So what I do this time is move it up an octave. This provides a big leap at the end. This is the biggest leap of the melody and goes up to the highest note of the melody, which is now F. Listen to the dramatic change this 1 point of difference brings. You want to keep things interesting with your melodies. We looked at the balance between leaps and steps, but you also need to think about rhythm. If you constantly use the same note durations, then things will become predictable. The same is true with your sequences. Constantly repeating sequences leads to listener fatigue and boredom. You want to play with expectations, set up sequences and then break them, or bring in breaks with no notes and then suddenly surprise with a flurry of notes. Also try and detach the rhythm of your melody with the rhythm of the chord changes. Don't always start and end phrases with the change of chords. In the next example, I use some of these ideas to bring added interest to the melody that we've been developing so far. Melodies are critical to writing great songs, but as you've seen, having a great chord progression can make or break your melody. I've developed a simple system for writing chord progressions, which you can learn in the video on screen. Watch that next so you can actually finish writing a song.